Hi there, and thank you for tuning into our video. My name is Hope Dorman, and I'm a member of the industry marketing team here at Houzz. Today, we have a special guest, one of our Houzz editors, who will share insights to help pros navigate communicating with clients in this uncertain time. Erin Carlyle is here with us. She is a Houzz editor and has been with Houzz for 4 years. We're grateful to hear her guidance for our pro community. Erin, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
So to start off, Erin, with so many challenges happening so rapidly for our pro community of business owners, I know we're all facing the many unknowns and the many impacts that this will have for weeks and months to come. So first, I wanted to ask, how can home renovation and design professionals acknowledge the situation to their clients, given that everything is changing rapidly? What have you heard from the folks that you've spoken with?
Well, that's a great question, Hope. I have spoken with a number of pros about how they're handling the situation. And in addition to that, our interior design business coach and house columnist, Beth Whitlinger, tackled the subject of communication in her most recent column. And one of the things that would be great for pros to do right now, if they haven't already, is to send an email to their current clients. This email can include how you're operating your business at this time. And it's a really good idea to include that further updates might be necessary if and when things change. Depending on how many clients you have, you may want to send individual emails rather than a mass email. The mass emails really work better for national brands as opposed to small businesses.
Absolutely. So how would you advise that pros craft that communication?
Yeah, I think the most important thing right now is really to show concern. This is obviously an alarming situation for many people, and it's good to acknowledge that and express concern for the people that you're reaching out to for their health and for their families. Another thing that's very practical to do and that will be at the forefront of your clients' minds is to explain what you're doing in your business as a result of the current crisis. For example, are your employees working from home and how are you making that happen? It's a great thing to touch on. Are you maybe expanding sick time for your employees? And also, you can address how you're working with other pros in a way that reduces the impact of the pandemic. For example, are you disinfecting any shipments that are coming into your home or your studio, your office, your storage center? Are there any other actions that you're taking that are good? Be sure to highlight those. Secondly, the next thing to cover in that communication would be what your plans are as a business, how this is going to affect projects, what your plan is. But it's really important at this time to make this communication about the client first.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with these recommendations from Beth and other professionals. And these guidelines, I think, can give pros actionable tips for what to include in their messages. And we're all in the same place, really, in adjusting to this new reality and trying to continue on with business. So, with the recommendations to stay home or practice social distancing becoming applicable to more and more people, what sorts of ways can pros keep their projects going?
Sure. There's a lot of things that pros can do right now, and I know there's a lot of anxiety and concern out there right now. So, really, all we can do is focus on those steps that we can take to keep business going. And Beth, in her column, had a lot of fantastic strategies for this. One thing that pros can do right now is to meet online, both with the clients and with their fellow pros. You can do phone calls, of course, but if there's a visual element, we've got a lot of great technology tools these days for doing video conferencing. For example, FaceTime, Zoom, Skype, Google Hangouts, WhatsApp, or Duo. There's just a ton of options out there. And one thing to keep in mind is if you're more tech savvy than your clients, you might want to ask them which method they prefer to use and adapt to that. Um, Another thing you can do is, some clients, people are reacting to this differently. So if some clients really still want to meet with you in person, or if it's a situation where you need to take the space, like for example, if you need to take measurements for cabinets, you might consider scheduling a meeting or a consultation a few months from now with the understanding that it could be postponed if necessary. Keep working on the independent elements that you can and keep your clients in the loop. Again, people are feeling anxious, and this is, as it's been said so many times, an unprecedented situation here in the US. And so We don't really know what to expect, and updates are really helpful for people during that time. And then, of course, you may want to look to new sources for products or materials, since some of them might no longer be available. We're seeing lots of factories and production facilities in New York City, for example, or in the surrounding area, or in Italy, close as a result of this crisis. And so, you know, maybe look for other sources. And if you don't already support your local businesses, and if they are able to keep operating in your particular area, that's a great place to look.
Those tips sound helpful, and hopefully they can allow projects to keep moving forward. For our next question, sometimes it's easier for some people to reference other materials and come up with the words or content themselves. So, what resources can pros share with their clients to instill confidence?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think it's important to remember that people aren't really looking to their designer or to their general contractor for medical news or advice. They're getting those, elsewhere. So at this time, really stay on point in keeping your messaging to your line of work. So, for example, if you have a job in progress, renderings, floor plans, photos of products that are arriving, all of that is really helpful. That can keep clients in the loop and assuage some of their fears. And of course, we have a lot of Houzz articles on a variety of topics that might come in handy at that time. We have, for example, articles on working from home, um, pieces on how to handle renovation delays. And we've been addressing, as quickly as we can, the coronavirus itself, and how this is affecting pros. And we have an upcoming story on ways you can boost your business. So pros might want to take a look at all of those resources.
Yes, I can only imagine that if I were in the middle of a project with all of this going on, I think seeing an email with my project updates or house articles would be quite welcome. And related to that, during the course of every renovation project, but especially now with so many things changing daily that impact projects, some clients may handle this by doing a communication overload with their designers or builders. So, how can a pro tactfully handle an abundance of communication from their clients?
Yeah, that's another great question, Hope. This is definitely a time when people are anxious, they can reach out, maybe even more than they might typically. And I think that's important for pros. We're all under a lot of strain right now. Just the news cycle is stressful. So I think it's important for pros in this stressful time to definitely place boundaries and set expectations, or even reinforce those that have already been set. So, for example, pros can share the business hours that they're keeping, so it doesn't feel like they're working nonstop just because they're working from home. Um, another another way to do this is to reiterate preferred communication methods, whether you as a pro welcome emails or you prefer scheduled phone calls. Just remind clients of how they can reach you. That's another great way. And then something I've seen pros use effectively is autoresponder emails, and that those can, for example, I received one. In fact, every time I reach out to this pro, a general contractor, I receive one right away that says he's in the field and can't immediately respond, but we'll get back to you. And I think there's a time period, whether that's 24 hours or whatever it is. Um, that can help people know that you're reachable and that you will get back to them. And another thing people can do right now is just screen their calls. You can let them go to voicemail. Um, leave their concerns there in a message, and then get back to them during your regular business hours, as opposed to, at 9 o'clock at night.
Yes, boundaries are super important, and as many people adjust to working from home, maybe even for the first time, it's necessary to draw the line between work and personal time. So that brings us to the end of our questions. So, Erin, before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts?
I would just say do what you can to take care of yourself. And, now is the time to think creatively as well about ways to grow your business during this challenging time. And we've got some great advice coming up for that. This is a new reality, and it's frightening for many of us, but the best thing that we can do is focus on what we can do, what we can control, and ways we can help others and protect our own health and that of those in our community. So I think just keeping the big picture in mind, right? We have our health, we have our loved ones, if we're lucky enough to be able to say that at this time. And stay in touch with the people you care about. As has been said, this too shall pass, but we're in the thick of it right now, so it's just maintaining that larger perspective.
Agreed. That sounds good. Well, first, thank you so much, Erin, for joining us and sharing advice. I hope our community finds some actionable suggestions that they can use in this unprecedented time. And of course, thank you to all who tuned in. We appreciate you for spending part of your day with us, virtually, of course, and we hope you'll join us for future Houzz webinars.